like to call this meeting of the Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners to order. Councilor, just a few things here to begin with. The request to comment cards. If anybody would like to comment, go ahead and fill out a card and hand that to over at this desk, and they will go ahead and bring them up to us. Appreciate it. First, I'd like to welcome. We've got 3 new members to the Wildlife Commission, and it's like old home week. We've got David McNitch back. Some people are in for a long ride. Dave, it's your 4th tour, I believe. Welcome. Rob, he's back. Welcome, Jack. Jeremy Drew. And then of course we also have 2 commissioners that were recently reappointed by Mike and Beth, and welcome back, Mr. Wallace. Matt Wallace. And gentlemen, like to tell anybody, Dorothy, Jack, like any comments, about your background, anything you'd like to say? Sure. Oh, and first, excuse me, I forgot. The microphones here for the commissioners, these microphones are for recording, and the green ones, I forgot, you gotta push the button down to project into the audience. And they say you gotta make sure you shut them off, because more than 3 of them are on, we've got like an issue, so push the button until the little red light turns on. Okay, go ahead, Jack.
I'd like to thank all the county advisory boards in attendance, and thank the county advisory boards that forwarded my name on to Governor Sandoval to be not reappointed, but appointed again to the Wildlife Commission. I do appreciate that, and it's an honor to be back on here. Thank you.
Commissioner Macbeth, your appointee.
I likewise would like to thank the county advisory boards. I really do appreciate the confidence that the county advisory boards have in me. I obviously feel very strongly about county advisory board's participation in this process, and I'm looking forward to a much better relationship with you guys going forward. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner McNitch.
All right, thank you, Dave McNitch. I think most of you know me. I look similar to everybody else, but I do appreciate the support and the confidence asking me to come back, and look forward to getting back to work. And if you don't know me, introduce yourself to me and ask me whatever you'd like. I'd be glad to talk to you.
Commissioner Drew.
Yeah, I'd like to just echo everyone's words. It's really an honor and a pretty humbling experience to be up here, and I wanted to thank everyone for their support and the kind words, and I look forward to working collaboratively moving forward with everyone. So, thank you.
Commissioner Wallace.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I also would like to thank the CABs and the Nevada Farm Bureau for their support, and look forward to moving forward and working for the wildlife of Nevada. Thank you.
All right, and another item, if you please shut cell phones, at least silent, turn them off, would appreciate it. It's always helpful. And I'd like to introduce Cassandra Joseph, who's our Deputy Attorney General. You're next to me, and she has a few words here she'd like to tell us.
Good morning, Cassandra Joseph, and I wanted to make an announcement about agenda items 16 and 29, which are the public comment period. I wanted to just bring your attention to the way the old agenda was written. It made it sound like public comment was not going to be allowed on reports or informational items. That is not so. So for agenda items number 16 and 29, for public comment, it's open to any topics. Thank you.
All right, and then let's go with the Pledge of Allegiance. If everybody, please follow me on the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Hopefully you have a few people here from Fallon. Fallon's always like home away from home. Spent some a lot of time out here. It's a beautiful place, a great venue, close to everybody, central as well. And some great waterfowl out here in this area. Spent a lot of time out here at Stillwater. All right. Our next item on the agenda is the roll call of the County Advisory Board members. If the County Advisory Board members would please stand up and introduce yourselves by county. Go
Ken
ahead.
Wellington, Elko County.
Paul Dixon, Clark County.
Darrell Harwell, Washoe County.
Gil.
Gil Yanner, Carson City.
Tom Casanelli, Humboldt County.
Rex Flowers, Washoe County. Walter Mandeville, Lyon County.
Bill Meyer, Lyon County.
Sam Bradley, Churchill County.
Mike Ernest,
Mineral County, oh, I'm sorry.
Mike Ernest, Douglas.
And
Oh, Billy Williams, Mineral County.
Billy Williams, Mineral County.
Joe Graham, Pershing County.
All right. Thank you very much and welcome. Always welcome. Always good to get good input. I know we've got the commission has received a lot of input from the county advisory boards. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to go over the minutes. I know a couple of them were pretty late, so anybody that didn't get their minutes in until the last day or so, make sure you get up and at the appropriate action item and let us know what happened. I know there was a couple of them I was reading this morning, and if everybody had that chance, right, reading on their phone, a little more difficult. All right, then let's go on to item number 2, which is the election of officers. In accordance with commission policy number 1, the commission will elect a chairman and vice chairman. I'd like this first accept nominations. We'll go through for chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'd like to nominate Scott Raine for chairman for the coming year.
Very good.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Commissioner Wallace.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Macbeth for chairman.
Very good. Do we have any further nominations?
Point of order, Chairman.
Go ahead.
Does that have to be seconded?
No, they don't. Not required. All right, fair enough. Also, I know previously we were not required to have public comment. I believe we have to have public comment on this item. Is that correct? All right. Public comment. Or we just saying no public comment? I didn't see any on the, go through the cards. Seeing none. One public comment. And then,
I have a card and all.
let me see here, there's a lot of them say various. Welcome.
Good morning. Bell Belding, Washoe County.
There's a green button, I believe. You can push
I
that
gotta
for
push
us.
it too?
I think so, yes. Thank you.
Good morning. Mel Belding, Washoe County. I'm representing myself and a lot of other sportsmen. I say this, but I throw my full support behind Commissioner Macbeth. I want to thank you personally for being a rock for the past, since you've been here. And I say that with a lot of respect for you. I hope that the rest of the commissioners here today see it, that you are worthy of this position, and you certainly deserve it. Thank you.
All right. Any further public comment? Mr. Moldy, welcome, welcome.
Well, I'm not first.
Hey, you are welcome, you know that.
Well, Mr. Chairman, Don Moldy, Reno, representing myself. I do rise in support of Commissioner Macbeth for chairman, although I specifically wish to thank you, Chairman Raine, for the consideration, courtesy, kindness, whatever words come to mind that you've shown me over the last couple of years. I must say you've been more generous with my antics and shenanigans, I think, than any chairman that I can recall over the years, and I've greatly enjoyed my contacts with you, and you can bet that I'll be stopping by Eureka to hustle a free Chinese dinner from you the next time I'm through. So thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it.
All right, thank you. We've always had good help, have some great information. One thing about Mr. Moldy, he's got as good information as anybody I've ever met. Further public comment? Seeing none, we'll proceed. We will close the public comment on this matter. And first we will have a vote on the first nominee, which is Scott Raine for chairman. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed? Motion fails 4-5. All right, and do we need, for the recording secretary, did you gather that?
I couldn't actually see the.
All right, let's go with Commissioner Vogler, Commissioner Schrum, Commissioner Howell, and Commissioner Raine in favor, and the other 5 would be opposed to that motion. Now we'll go with the opposite vote. We have Commissioner Macbeth. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed? All right, motion passes 5-4. Did you gather that, the opposite of the previous? All right, and now I would like to welcome, for the vice chairman position, before we get into that, I'd like to welcome Commissioner Macbeth. I'm entrusted with the gavel. I haven't stolen it, even though I've been packing it around, contrary to some popular opinion I hear.
Hey, come on, is it the real one?
This is an imitation I had made, but it's really good. I did a really good job. And welcome and good luck, sir.
Okay. I'm gonna have to get my chairman legs under me. I have a feeling Scott's done a very good job, you know, assuming the position and the procedural aspects of it. And it's, you know, I got a little bit to learn here, but anyway.
Fine.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so the nominations for vice chairman, it's going to be a very important position. I am not a person who likes to, you know, hoard power or anything like that. I like as many people in the boat as I can get. And so I am going to be relying on the vice chairman heavily in a very, very collaborative sense. And so I really do feel that it's a very important position. It's not just a title. And so anyway, I'm hoping that, you know, that the nominations reflect that. So I guess I'll call for nominations for vice chairman.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead. Commissioner Howell.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'd like to nominate Hank Vogler for vice chair.
Okay. Okay, any additional nominations for vice chair? Mr. McNinch.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Jack Robb for vice chair.
Okay. Okay, any further nominations for vice chair? There being none, we'll have public comment. Anybody in the public have anything that they'd like to comment on with regard to the 2 vice chair candidates? Okay, seeing none, bring it back to the commission. No further discussion? Why don't we go ahead and vote then the first candidate, Hank Vogler.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I might have missed it, but did someone second the motion?
We were told that we didn't have to, and so I don't believe we did that for the chairman.
We don't need to.
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
Sorry. So, with regard to Commissioner Vogler for vice chairman, all in favor, say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
So that's Commissioner Vogler, Commissioner Howell, Commissioner Schrum, and Commissioner Raine. 4 to 5, that motion fails. The next candidate for Vice Chairman, Jack Robb, all in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. And so that is Commissioner Robb, Commissioner Macbeth, Commissioner McNinch, Commissioner Drew, and Commissioner Wallace. That motion passes 5 to 4. Okay. It's a new day.
Don't forget to push your button.
It's a new day. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. And I think we have some, we're going to need to have some discussion with regard to the agenda items. So why don't we start? Anybody have any comments with regard to the agenda? Commissioner Roop, go ahead.
Chairman, I had just a couple of concerns. I was able to attend 2 CAB meetings and also saw the same comment on several of the other CAB's comment sheets. But my direct concerns are with agenda items 13 and 23B. These are both action items, and they had no support material. And I like to get as much public and CAB comment as I can, and I believe without support material, we don't get adequate input. So I'd ask that we consider that as we look at approving the agenda.
Commissioner Drew, do you have any specific motions with regard to those 2 items to address those concerns, or do you want to have further discussion on them?
I'll make a motion just for the sake of discussion. So my motion would be to table agenda items 13 and 23B.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Mr. Chairman, I need to leave early today, and I know my litigation report is on today. I'm hoping you can move that to tomorrow. I'll be here for the full meeting tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, no problem.
What item number is that?
Okay, with regard to the motion, any discussion by the commission with regard to that motion? Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Raine.
Thank you. I'd just like to point out, before we get into too many motions on this deal, I'd kind of like to hear maybe just a general public comment, have them ask for what we could, see what they have on all these subjects? Or did you want to go ahead and have public comment by each motion? Just a procedural question for you.
I guess my preference would be is to give the public a chance to speak about each specific agenda item motion that we're going to make, and that way probably saves time. And might be able to get specific comment from the public with regard to that, because they don't know at this point what's going to be happening with these motions. So, but I will bring back to the commission if the commission has any further discussion on this particular motion.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Raine.
Thank you. Then let me follow up then on that. We had this set. I would, first like to bring up item 23B. And I'll just kind of give you a little history on this. Generally, it had been my policy throughout the last year that anytime any commissioner brought forth an item, and I tried to at least provide it in email, if not any other way, if you bring up an item, it's a legitimate item, reasonable for discussion, then we should put it on the agenda. I don't necessarily have to agree with it, but if it's a reasonable item and it's worthy of discussion, then it should be put on the agenda, should be discussed. If I don't necessarily agree with it and I think the commission don't agree with it, hey, if there's one commissioner that thinks that strongly about an item, we should probably put it on the agenda. And that was the case for 23B. The other one, I believe Commissioner Vogel could probably, explain what's going on with 13 a little better than perhaps I could. But that's where 23B was, and I believe that is one thing I did throughout last year, is every time I got a legitimate subject, we stuck it on there, I agreed to it or not. That's how that came about.
Thank you, Commissioner Raine. Commissioner Minch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to add to the discussion item 11B. It's my understanding that the falconry regulations that we need to comply with to line ourselves up with the federal requirements aren't due until 2014, and I know that this has been a point of discussion. I think there's been some good progress made, but I think that it would be a little premature to consider any action on it at this time. I think that there's a good opportunity to get up to speed on this particular item and certainly bring that back as an action item at a future meeting. So when we're prepared, I would like to make an amendment to the original motion.
Okay, just as a point of procedure, do you want to do motions and then vote, and then additional motions and votes? Or do you want to have a single, do you want to bring all the items that we want as a single motion via amendment? The amendment process can get a little messed up, it's all we're thinking. If we keep it nice and clean one at a time, will that be easier for you, Suzanne?
Sometimes it is.
Okay.
I guess my suggestion would be then, if it's proper procedure for the motion maker and for the second to incorporate that as part of their motion.
I'd be favorable to that amendment.
I withdraw my second.
And then second the amendment? Okay. So we have a motion to amend that has been accepted, and the second has been withdrawn and then accepted again on the amended motion. Okay, any further discussion? Commissioner Drew?
I understand, Commissioner Raine, your point, and I don't disagree with that. I think it's good to have discussions on these items, and that's why I didn't move to have item 23A removed, because it's listed as informational. I just feel that before this commission takes action, it needs to know where the CABs are on these issues, and the CABs need sufficient support material to make proper input to this board, and so that's why I made that motion.
Commissioner Raine?
I'm thinking, we're talking about falconry, since just come up. Item B, if you'll notice on this is simply this was put in here so that the commission could discuss it and simply give instructions to staff. And how I envisioned that was we would like to see maybe a deadline for it, or this is the time frame in which we'd like to see it. You know, we could never create this is not creating regulation, nor could we. It's not the process. The reason this was put on here was simply so that if the commission so chose, it could go ahead and give general instruction. This is kind of the process we would like to see. And rather than discussing the item under an informational category, this gave it actually an action category, which would allow further public input on the item because it's an action item. And that way the commission could discuss it, public could discuss it, and then we'd see where we want to go. And, you know, rather than just voting it down, hey, rather than debating it now, we just debate it then, and, you know, I don't think about that much debate on it. But that's why I'd kind of like to just, you know, that way we get some input. Thank you.
Any further comment? Commissioner McNinch?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just the fact that we've got informational items doesn't preclude us from taking comment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I actually have a comment in a potential motion with regard to 23A, but I really don't want to, we'll consider that as a separate one. I want to go ahead and deal with this motion as it is right now before it gets too cumbersome. Okay, so we need to take public comment at this time. So anybody from the public with regard to those three potential amendments to the agenda?
Can you just repeat those? Once again, so we get them all, I just want to make sure that.
Okay, so I think the way I understand it is that the motion as it currently stands is to table item 13, which is the Wildlife Damage Management Committee action item to approve the Wildlife Damage Committee's recent draft plan recommendations. Also, with respect to 11B, the faculty regulation process. Now we are going to have the discussion. The informational aspects of that is going to continue, but the any motion, any action item motion is being removed, and then item 23B is the action item on the discussion with regard to grouse seasons, sage grouse seasons potentially closing risk sage grouse seasons. So those three items are what's up right now. Okay. Chairman Dixon, Clark County Cab.
For the record, Paul Dixon, Chairman of Clark County Advisory Board. When I put together my agenda, I had hopes that I was going to see from the Wildlife Commission information on agenda item related to sage grouse hunting for action, because I tend to discuss those, and the Wildlife Damage Committee. Having not received any information on those, so we couldn't really discuss them other than make hypotheses about things, I actually revised my agenda at the beginning of my CAB meeting, moved those to the last two agenda items because I knew that I was going to end up having to table them because we had no meaningful information. So if you do go forward with these, it will be without input from a majority of the CABs because there was no information for us to review for that. Thank you.
Come on up.
Tom Casanelli with Humboldt County Cab. I'm the rancher representative for Humboldt County. I'd like to see more input put into item number 23, the sage hen seasons. The Cattlemen's Association is opposed to this. Nevada Farm Bureau is opposed to this. I don't know, Hank is supposed to be representing the cattle, the Nevada Cattlemen's or ranching rep for here. I think you should go on this as your own proposal, because I don't know many ranchers that are for this. We're getting a lot of great input from our wing collections in these areas, and to cut them off right now would probably really hurt the situation of sage hen and the information we're gathering that is helping on this, keep them off the endangered species list. So for those two reasons, I'd like to see this at least put in to record that it's not the cattlemen's that are behind this. I see a Reno Gazette paper wrote an article on it, and it states the ranching rep. I don't know who he's representing. The two major people involved in this, Farm Bureau and Nevada Cattlemen's, are both opposed to this. And like I said, the majority of ranchers that I talk to are opposed to this. So I'd like to see this taken off. Thank you.
Mr. Belding.
For the record, Mel Belding, Washoe County. I would like to say, kind of ditto what Mr. Casanelli just said, and the cooperation between the sportsmen and sage grouse, this particular issue is second to none. I count sage grouse in a couple, 3 or 4 different counties in the state. I'm constantly invited by different ranchers to stay at their ranch, and they express to me how important they feel that it is, and the sportsmen's out there trying to save grazing at the same time we're trying to not get a bird listed. So I really feel that the sportsmen and ranchers and farmers have a partnership formed here, and we should continue that any way we can. Thank you.
Mr. Harlow.
For the record, Darrell Harlow, Washoe County Cab. At our meeting, we tabled the Wildlife Damage Committee because we had no support material for it. And I do believe we're probably the one that sent the last email. Our secretary was on vacation, so I think he got back last night and put the minutes together, so I think he just sent it out last night. On the item 23B, the motion was to recommend that the Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners approve any 2011 sage grouse hunt, but take no actions or any recommendation of closure without properly going to the CABs. That's how we voted on it.
Thank you. Any further public comment?
It's on, I think, yeah. Walt Mandeville, Lyon County, I'm the Vice Chairman, and I want to echo everything that's been said so far. We have no support material behind any of these items, and our meeting, we didn't have any opportunity to discuss those issues. And as far as the sage grouse closure goes, the Department of Wildlife collects one huge volume of data from open seasons through the wing collection and hunter questioning, and the department would hate to lose that opportunity, because if you close the season, that's it. You have no other way to monitor that population unless it becomes an endangered species. That's another issue, but it's not, and I don't know how long it's going to take to make those determinations, but we'd like to have more support material so that we could actually discuss those issues. And thank you.
Mr. Busselman.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, for the record, Doug Busselman, Nevada Farm Bureau. I hadn't planned on speaking on this particular topic, but you're not wasting any time wading in. For the record, I think it's clear, I think it needs to be clarified that Nevada Farm Bureau, while we probably would be opposed to closing the season, the agenda item that you're working on is whether it should be discussed or not. And from that point of view, I want to be very clear that we don't have a problem if there were to be a discussion, deliberation, and we can do that now or in the future. But we want to clarify that we're not opposed to there being a discussion about closing, even though our position, when it was discussed, would likely be that we would be not in favor of closing.
Thank you. Okay, any other public comment? Seeing none, I will bring it back to the commission. Any further commission discussion on this item? Mr. Vogler.
Well, I guess I got everybody's attention. That's what I intended. Mr. Windmill, federal judge in Idaho, closed down a series of allotments in northern Elko County. They also got $15 million in extortion money from the Ruby Pipeline. Rural counties of Nevada are extremely dependent on ranching and on mining. Having spent the first 35 years of my life in Southeast Oregon, I watched the spotted owl destroy the silviculture industry, ranching, and other things in Oregon. Because everybody kind of sat back and waited for somebody else to do something. Did I plan on closing down the season? No, I planned on getting your attention, which I did. We've got to do something, and we should do it in a proactive manner instead of a reactive manner. Mr. Windmill took his foot off the neck of those ranchers in the northern Elko County allotments, but it was after the fact. They'd already found other pastures. They'd already spent extra monies to go elsewhere. And in his decision to allow them to graze next year, irrespective of how much he damaged their bottom line this year, he claims that he has authority over every sage hen on any federal land in the West, including Wyoming, including Nevada. Now, whether I represent the ranchers, last I heard the wool growers were considered ranchers, probably not by this organization, but they are. And they unanimously, in fact, they even received phone calls on the way over here this morning. I just wanted to get your attention that there is more in this state than just the casino industry. And the two largest industries in the 16 rural counties are endangered. Now, we've done 10 or 12 years of wing studies. It's the state that has to go after the federal government. It's the state that has to say, we have a sage hen plan. We have what we want to do, and we will handle our own deal. If you'll notice that Idaho came up with its own wolf proposal. Montana came up with its own wolf proposal. Wyoming had to restructure theirs a couple of times, but they got it done. And what have we done? Hunting sage hens. I just figured that'd kind of wake everybody up. Maybe we don't need an extra 9,000 sage chickens a year to show that we do. We have a gazillion crows eating them. We know that. We know all the information of how to handle it. I just wanted Nevada to step up, be the first. We have a director of this department that has a very close relationship with the governor, and maybe he'd get that governor to step up and protect mining and to protect agriculture. So that's why I put it on there. Did I think I was going to be successful? Absolutely not. Did I talk to the Cattlemen's Association? Yes. Gave them my position. Did I talk to the Farm Bureau, which I do not represent? Mr. Wallace represents them. I talked to Mr. Busselman at length and told him my position. He said, I respect your position. So here we are going to try and have the discussion, but we're going to make sure we don't have the discussion because of whatever reason. That's why I did what I did, and I stand by what I did. And by the way, Mr. Mulder agreed with me. Thank you, Don.
Absolutely.
So that's my comment. As far as the predation management part of it went, I had a group of people that were going to come in and put their case out of what was going on with the fencing of their properties. And for whatever reason, whoever they dealt with, they felt betrayed and disgusted and walked away. And they're not here today. So there's not much I can do about that. As far as the rest of the predation management with the paradigm shift in the makeup of this board, my understanding is predators are not a factor in wildlife management. Everything is habitat. So I just assumed we were going to have a complete reversal of direction, and I just didn't think it was necessary to hand out information that was going to be invalidated as soon as we had election of officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Vogler. Commissioner Raine?
Thank you. You know, I'm afraid what's happening here is we are changing we're putting on item 3 what should be discussed in all the other items. You know, if there's people that are coming in for public comment, they want to talk about the sage-grouse issue, and you know, and just structurally speaking, there's nothing in 23B, there's no action that this commission could take tomorrow that would actually shut down sage-grouse season. We would talk about it, we could make some action, hey, we'd like to see that shut down for the following year. It's already set for this year. It's not been, and I, you know, asked me, if I messed up on this, Dag, let me know. But we couldn't shut it down on this action item today, or tomorrow, excuse me. We would have to come back in another day. This is so the commission could say, hey, we think it's a good idea, bad idea, what, and let's bring it up in the future. Should we consider this in the future, yes or no? And that's where all these items are, and you know, they're just discussion, but the commission could then make some action. No, we don't want to discuss that at the next meeting, we're good. So it's not something that the CABs necessarily even needed to see, in that if the action was, yeah, we want to do it, then it'd come up on a future agenda, and then they'd see it. So as far as that goes, you know, we don't have anything necessarily on item 13, but I'd like to see the motion, you know, just go to 13, and then we can discuss these items tomorrow if people are coming in about sage-grouse tomorrow. The falconry regs, it'll come up later, no matter how we vote. Why not just do it on item 11? Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner Raine. Commissioner Drew?
You'll notice that I agree with you on a lot of this. And I know you might not believe it, but there's a reason that I didn't include 23A in the motion. I just think moving forward, we've got a communication problem between the commission, between the department, and between the CABs. That needs to change. And that's the reason for my motion. I respect your positions, a lot of them I agree on, but I do not think this board needs to be making decisions without sufficient input from our CABs. And those CABs cannot make those decisions and inputs if they do not have adequate support material. So I stand by my motion.
Okay, I think we're ready to vote on the motion. Do I need to restate it, or does everybody have a handle on, all the commissioners have a handle on what the motion is with regard to these agenda items? Do I need to restate it for the record? Are you fine with it? Okay. Then I will call up for a vote on amending the agenda as we've discussed. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay?
Okay, motion passes 5-4. Suzanne, did you get all the? Got it? Okay. I think it's probably going to be printed in your brain when it stays out. Okay, any further discussions? I actually do have a point that I'd like to make with regard to 23A. I was talking to the director, and I understand that that with respect to having this as an informational item and actually having a very good discussion on this issue, I think it is something the commission definitely needs to discuss. Now that it's been raised, I think we need to deal with it. We're not going to duck this issue, but I do think that we need to do it in a proper way. In talking to the director, I understand that one bit of information, and the agency that is probably central to this issue is not going to be speaking on this issue, and that is the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And I believe that if we're going to do an informational item on sage hen, that it should be complete. We shouldn't have to bifurcate it into this meeting and a future meeting. I really do think that what we need to do is maybe table 23A as well, and bring this as maybe first as an informational item, because the time to make changes to the sage hen season, I believe, is the June meeting, is generally the June meeting. And so we've got plenty of time. I think what I'd like to see is it be an informational item that has the full range of discussion, and that we get the people here that need to be here to really inform this commission on this issue. I guess I could make that motion is that we table 23A as well to allow the department to make arrangements with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, as well as any other agencies that are weighing in on this. I know that there's issues with we have Sage Grouse Committee. I don't know how active it's been. It would be nice to understand how where we are with that process. And then I'd also really like to understand how the other western states that have sage and what they're doing with this issue. I understand Washington doesn't have a hunt. I would just like it to be a very, very thorough discussion. And so I guess I'll go ahead and make that motion to table item 23A.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Commissioner Wallace.
Just a point of clarification there, does that say that we're gonna put it on, say, the next agenda, or are you?
I guess.
I wanna make sure it's taken care of.
Yes, I do agree, and well, let me ask the director. Ken, do you think that we can get the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on for the next meeting?
Yeah, Ken Mayer, for the record, Director of the Nevada Department of Wildlife. I'm pretty sure of it. There's other players. BLM's a huge player in this, and their west-wide strategy plan should be out then. Amy Lueders, the new state director of BLM, has just been inducted as the new state director, is leading that charge actually for the West with Raoul or deputy. I'm sure we can get them. The service would give them plenty of time. We've got 6 weeks or 5 weeks to get them, and then we can certainly do more investigation about North Dakota and Washington and the reasons why they're not hunting grouse. So the only two places that are not, Washington is listed as a threatened species already because there's a remnant population. But certainly we'd be able to line up the actors. A lot of people are playing. There's the bi-state population as well, which we do not hunt. California has 60 tags. There's a new bi-state group that's been put together, interagency group. That's worthy of the discussion as well, so.
Could we, I sense where you're going, Commissioner Wallace, with this. I mean, I would be happy to amend the motion to basically state that we put it back on the agenda for the September meeting. I guess that if we have problems getting all these, when I see all these players coming together, invariably somebody's gonna have a schedule conflict to try to get the best person here. I guess we could just go ahead and hope that 6 weeks is sufficient time. I mean, hopefully nobody has any vacation plan or anything like that if there's key people. But anyway, so I'll be happy to amend the motion to state that we bring it back on for the September agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay, let's bring it back to the commission then for discussion. Anybody? Commissioner Troop?
I could go either way on this motion, in all honesty, but I think sage grouse is probably the biggest issue this commission's going to deal with, and it's for exactly the reasons that Commissioner Vogler laid out. So I'm interested to see what the CABs say. Part of me says that I'd like to hear what the department has to say today, and for the 10 CABs that are in attendance, give them some background on where the department's coming from, and then have the discussion next week as well. I mean, it's a huge issue. I have no problem putting sage grouse on every agenda item we have. So I'm interested to see what the public and the CAB input is on this, on how they want to handle it going forward.
Any other commissioners have any other comment? Commissioner McMahon, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would support the motion. And included in that might be an update on the statewide conservation plan efforts. Obviously, that's a major component. There is a conservation plan that's out there, and we do have a number of local working groups. And in our upland game stamp request, there's a number of projects in there that are supportive of conserving sage grouse, and I think that there's a lot of good stuff going on out there, and I think it's worthy of dedicating a little broader, a little more time, a little broader aspect to it, and get it all into context for us. So I would support the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Howell.
Mr. Chairman, I would think when we invite these federal people to the meeting, it would be beneficial to invite somebody that can make a decision rather than just give a little speech. We need to have somebody that can actually say something based on what we're proposing that we do. What happens?
Mr. Chairman, relative to that, certainly the BLM can tell you what they're going to do. So can NRCS, they can say what they're going to do. Relative to the service, my plan would be to get Steve Abel, who is the sage grouse person for Nevada, and he's going to be the one that will be giving the input up the chain of command, part of the peace process, who will make the decision. It won't be made at the local level. It will be the information that will be passed up to the regional directors, and they have a regional director, field supervisor team that actually renders that final, that recommendation to the director of the Fish and Wildlife Service, who makes the ultimate decision. But what will be instructive is the biologists that are saying good things or bad things, and that really what they have to say means a heck of a lot up the chain for the final decision.
Thank you. Just a quick comment on Commissioner Drew's statement. One of the things that I am going to be very cognizant about in going forward is to conserve commission resources and time and effort. And I am absolutely, in fact, for the last 3 years, you know how I feel about CAB input and what my position is on it, and how much I respect it. And so my issue here, my issue here today is to have a one-shot, discussion on this, and it's really not going to be. Commissioner Drew is absolutely correct that we're going to be dealing with this issue forever. And so anyway, but I would like it to be a fully informed meeting for the first meeting that we do have where we discuss this, and so that was the reason why I just want to get all the players here the people that have been indicated by the director, that sounds like a very good group right off the bat, and I imagine the list will expand. So anyway, any further, okay, let's wrap it up, as you used to say.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, this is just a first phase. I mean, it's not even the first phase. This would be the 4th or 10th phase in this process. I'd just like to see what the department has to say. Let them bring it all out. Want to bring the feds in next meeting. Then we have a meeting, have the feds bring out their part. If we try to do it all in one meeting, that's a 2-day meeting just on sage grouse. It'd be great to see, you know, the department's got, if they want to do it in 10 minutes or they want to do it in an hour, that's the department's purview. Then we bring it up next meeting and the next meeting, that'd be great, but, you know, I would just personally like to see it on here. They can tell us what they got. Everybody's informed, the CAB's informed, commission's informed, the feds are informed. For the next meeting, they know what to expect. That's why, one reason it's on the agenda. Thank you.
Commissioner Rob.
I'm trying to get my hands around all the motions here. Commissioner Drew had a motion out, I seconded it, concerning B. I would really like to see A, so I'd like to be able to vote to table items that was discussed in the original motion. I'm gonna have a hard time going with the second part, to table A, because the sage grouse is such an issue. If we can get timely information out there every time we have a meeting on sage grouse, I see Sean Espinoza in the audience, he probably has some information we could get. That shows we're doing something right. I don't want to just table this item and make it look like we're running away from it. I got a call from Jim Jeffers today saying it was in the Denver Post. I mean, this is in newspapers, not only in Nevada, it's other places. I do not want to run away from it. I want to discuss it today. So I would really like to table B, but not A. Go with the original motion is what I would like to see.
Okay, just to clarify, we have already passed that motion, so I think that's already off. B's already off, so we're basically, I've come back now with the motion to consider taking A off as well. And so that's where we stand with it coming back to the commission in the September, for the September meetings. That's the motion that's been seconded, and so since it's on the floor, if we have any other comment from the commission, I think it's time for the public, for public comment.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Mike Turnipseed, and I'm with the Douglas CAB. At one point in my career, I was the director of the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. And for part of that time, the Department of Wildlife was a division of wildlife within my department. And I don't remember if it was, which governor it was, maybe Miller, but created the Governor's Sage Grouse Conservation Commission or whatever. I'm going to expand on what Commissioner McNish said. Don't take that lightly. It was thousands and thousands of man-hours went into it. Every federal agency, all the environmental groups, all the state agencies that might have something to do with that, as well as multiple local agencies came up with their own conservation plan that was all folded into the state sage grouse conservation plan. Now, what year would that have been?
2001 and 2.
2000. But just don't take that lightly. There was lots and lots of input to that sage grouse conservation plan.
For the record, Gil Yannick, Carson Advisory Board. I've been working with the Governor's Sage Grouse Conservation Team since about 2002. And I really think Sean ought to get up here and say a lot of this, but this issue has not been forgotten. It took a back seat for a couple of years after we completed the state conservation plan. And as Mike said, there was a lot of work done by an awful lot of people to put that together. And it's being revised, let's say it's been being brought back to life because of the recent decisions, court decisions and decisions by the service as to the level of priority of listings of the greater sage grouse and the subspecies that's in the bi-state area. Mr. Vogler is correct. This is serious because if this listing goes into effect, it's going to affect the economy of the state to a degree that nobody has realized yet. As far as being able to get grazing permits during certain times of the year, mining operations throughout the state, and it needs to be discussed, and I think the board needs to be brought up to date. We, Mr. Busselman, myself, and Sean, we've been very active in trying to keep this thing going and reinvigorating the local working groups so that we get the public and private landowners back at the table. There is, for the first time in many, many years, NRCS has some money to make available to the private landowners to fund some of these projects. And it's too bad that, the minutes of these various meetings don't get widely published so you guys can be brought up to date quickly as to what's been going on. And the big concern that we have is in the bi-state group area. We were told by Steve Abel at the last meeting that we had, it's one of the things that made the decision to give the bi-state areas a priority rating that's pretty much going to happen if we don't do something real soon. And one of the issues he brought up was the fact that we lack here in Nevada a lot of regulatory control to protect the bird in that area. And that's something that we kind of try to shy away from, but often the way the government looks at these issues, they say, what are you doing on a statewide basis to protect the bird? Yeah, you're trying to improve the habitat. Yes, you're trying to keep wild horses out of the wetland areas. You're trying to fence off certain areas. But at the same time, they're looking to enact some legislation, some controls, some regulations that would help it. So I think your plan to bring people from the service, people from the BLM here to give us an education, and not only the commissioners, the cabs, and the general public need to understand where everybody stands and what part they all play in this giant problem that's facing the state of Nevada, and probably all the western states with regards to safe grounds. Thank you.
Thanks, Gil. I'm gonna delegate a task to my vice chairman. I want you to start keeping track of the 3-minute rule. Our DAG is watching, so. Anyway, everybody, public comment limited to 3 minutes. Try to have some self-control, but we are going to be watching. Mr. Busselman?
Mr. Chairman, for the record, again, Doug Busselman, Nevada Farm Bureau. To be brief, first of all, I am a member of the original Governor Sage Grouse team, and we held our first meeting to develop or begin developing the conservation plan in August of 2000. So we've been at it for quite a while. I would encourage the commission to go forward with the report that is listed in your agenda. I think there's some value in bringing it forward and having the discussions begin with the department, describing for you the conservation plan that needs to be acted on and worked on and updated. I think Mr. Vogler's point in bringing this whole agenda subject to the forefront is essential, that it be discussed, and that now is as good a time as any to get that going on the agenda for tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moldy? Dr. Moldy, excuse me.
I don't do that anymore.
Okay, well, so it's for life.
Mr. Chairman, members, Don Moldy, Reno. I must say that I was quite excited when I saw this item on the agenda. I was very thankful for Commissioner Vogler to put it on, frankly, because you never see the value of hunting discussed in this agency that controls hunting. And so from a general public point of view, it seemed a rather dramatic addition to the agenda, and I was quite happy to be a part of any discussion now or later. So I think it's important, and I think the public does not understand generally, the general public, how you have to kill an animal to save it. It's somewhat reminiscent of our Vietnam policy in the 60s where we destroyed villages to save them. It just doesn't intuitively make sense to people who don't understand the nuances of wildlife lore. And I also want to thank Sean Espinoza for sending me some very good information about this matter in an email, and I'm sure that when he makes a presentation, you'll appreciate it as much as I did. I do have a specific recommendation. I would suggest that Don Clabenow's name be included in those who may be invited to attend and make a presentation, because, as you know, Professor Klebenow did a lot of sage grouse work in Nevada. And I think from an experimental point of view, he might be able to answer questions. Do we really have to kill them to save them? Or are there other ways of getting the information that might not otherwise arrive with wings clipped off dead birds? Thank you.
Chairman Dixon.
For the record, Paul Dixon, Clark County CAB Chairman. Just for clarity for the new board members and a reminder to returning or standing board member or commissioners, is that when Clark County builds their agenda, we have a limited amount of time. I rarely have a discussion about informational things at my meeting, and I only put on my agenda things that the commission is potentially going to take action on. And therefore, when we tabled this item, we tabled the action part of this item. We did not discuss the informational part of this item or its value in what we did. So I just want to make sure the commissioners understood that the way our agenda is set up, we only deal with action items or public items which are non-agendized. You'll see it in my action report. We had a couple of those too. Thank you.
Okay, any further public comment? Okay, I'm sensing how this is going to go. Anyway, we are going to bring it back to the commission for any further comment, but let's try to keep it brief and let's get to a vote. Commissioner Vogler.
Thank you for the wonderful discussion. Again, we have 12 years of information. We've compiled everything. If we wait for U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and Mr. Windmill says it will be done, it shall be done by 2013. Then I heard the heads, these pushed it to 2015. But it's just around the corner. And if we sit and wait for that to happen, are the miners of this state and the ranchers of this state going to be like what happened in northern Elko County? Are we going to be having to go out and find pasture somewhere else or move to another state and be reactive rather than proactive? We have the information now. It's our governor who can approach the federal government and say, we do not need this listing. We do not need any help. We have our own program. I personally am involved in 2 different NRCS sage hen projects. I personally get all the eggs I can that have been doctored when the crows migrate through my valley. And as a result, Nevada Department of Wildlife does many of their sage hen studies in my meadows. So this is not a diabolical plot on my part on anything at all. I just would like to see the 16 rural counties be something besides the waste dump for Clark County. And that's where we're headed. So anyhow, that's why I brought it up. Didn't know I was going to get the major heading of action, but I did it, and I am not one bit apologetic about it. And if we want to stick our heads back in the sand for a few more years and wait till where we play catch-up ball, wait till U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service makes a decision, and we have all the information, but we have to get injunctions and we have to start over. Just remember, I told you first. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Commissioner Wallace.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First off, I just wanted to say I seconded your motion so that we could have this discussion. And following the discussion, I can no longer support.
Okay, I'll make it easy. I'm going to withdraw the motion. We can just dispense with that. Okay? Okay, do we have any other motions with regard to Commissioner Rock? Go ahead.
In looking at the agenda, I agree with where Commissioner Drew